Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Public Practice Accountants Club on Clubhouse, where public practitioner thought leaders, industry specialists, and accountants just like you discuss hot topics in public practice and how they go about navigating the public practice landscape all around the world. So fundamentally, public practice has the same principles, dynamics, and challenges no matter where we are in the world. We might have some different tax seasons, busy periods, and legislation, but at the core, we are very much the same. So our room this morning is it time to sell? A very interesting topic and a very one that I know we'll be able to sink our teeth into. But let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Lynda Steffens. I am an accountant and author and an introvert, and I've been hanging around public practice now for just over 30 years. I've owned my own accounting businesses over that time and been a practice manager for many years. But what I do now is I coach and educate accountants around business improvement advisory and how to transition that alongside your compliance businesses. But of course, I am very pleased to welcome back my amazing co-host, Kyelie Baxter.
Good morning, Lynda. Yes, it feels like forever since we did this, and I haven't actually even spoken to you. So Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you.
January goes by in a flash.
Oh my gosh.
I'm thrilled to join you this morning, especially because we've got such a great topic. But I'll do a quick intro of myself, and I forget what I normally say, so I'll just slide.
Oh, it's brand new for the new year.
So unlike me, as you know. So yes, I'm Kyelie Baxter. I run a public practice accounting firm on the Gold Coast in Queensland. I guess our point of difference is that we are quite technology focused, so we're completely paperless, and we force our clients to be paperless as well, which makes for some interesting conversations, but it makes us super efficient, and it really improves that advisory side of our business because it starts those conversations from our initial meeting. So let's get into it.
Absolutely. So for those of you that are joining us in Clubhouse this morning, thank you for coming along. Clubhouse is a great networking opportunity for you as well. So you can click on people's profiles as you look to see who's in the room. They can't see you doing it, so you can stalk them safely. That's all good. And, you might want to connect with somebody or follow them on Clubhouse, depending on what they're doing. So it's fabulous for that. And also, too, we are an official CPA public practice discussion group, so you certainly can get your CPD and CPE points from listening into the conversation. We also have replays in Clubhouse now, so there's quite a number of topics that are sitting there if you want to listen into some of Kyelie and my discussions that we've had previously. There's some great topics to listen to if you want to pop that on the car anytime or somewhere where you'd just like to have a listen. But just a quick reminder as we kick off the conversation, please remember that our intention is always to be positive, supportive, and collaborative as we come together in support of our amazing industry, no matter where we are in the world. Okay, so is it time to sell? Well, the new year is a time for future planning, and if you are thinking of selling your business in 2022 or even, sometime soon, preparation is the key. So it can be hard to determine when is the right time. So we're here this morning, hopefully to help you out, get you thinking, when is the right time? So how do you know when it's a good time to sell your practice, and what should you consider when preparing for sale? Okay, Kyelie, what should we consider when we're preparing for? So have you had some experience with this? I suppose you've had an internal restructure, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. So I first was offered a partnership when I was a baby accountant, we'll put it that way. And then obviously over the course of time have bought my partners out and now own my own business. So yes, I have gone through that buy-sell process several times now.
Yes.
So I can speak from experience there, and have held the hands of other colleagues who've gone through similar processes. So it's a really interesting journey, but I think today we're focused on selling, not buying so much, although the two go hand in hand, obviously.
They do.
I think where we should start is when you decide to sell, the key word that you use then is preparation.
Yes.
You really want to make sure that when you decide to sell, you're not doing it as a knee-jerk emotional reaction.
Yes. And I know my experience, I have sold, one was a forced sale, a business divorce, and the other one was a they happen. And one was a conscious decision to sell and to transition into something else. And there were a lot of interesting things happening around that time for me and through my experience. But I suppose the conscious one of selling, what sort of led to that? And it, we certainly have ups and downs, and those, like you just said, it shouldn't be a knee-jerk reaction, but sometimes you just wish you could I've had enough now. I just stop the world. I want to hop off. Yes. But, it was a number of really months and years before I reached that conclusion around, no, I know it's time to sell, but I'm going to prepare myself for sale. So the forced one, you can't do that. That sort of happens a little bit outside of your control. But the one that I did prepare for, I think it took me at least 12 months before I negotiated that sale.
Yeah, I think there's a decision-making timeline and definitely steps within that, profile range that things need to be done, and we'll unpack that today.
Absolutely.
12 months to me seems, about the right time, or even for some people, depending on how you think and work and the size of your practice and all those sorts of things, and how you plan to sell as well.
Yeah.
It is really a 12-month job.
Absolutely.
You can't go, I'm going to sell my business. I'm going to do it tomorrow.
Yes. Well, you don't want to be put in that position, and I think we'll talk about some of that as well. And this lead up to the is it time to sell? I think that's something that as accountants we might not always want to face up to. There'll be times in our careers, in our personal lives, where we might have to face some sort of hard conversations with ourselves, particularly around our health, around our mortality, around our family needs, professional goals. It can be a lot of different things. And I think, just shoving them in a back cupboard and not thinking about them is not really a good idea as far as preparation and planning goes.
I agree. And I think even with that list, and you've listed a whole heap of sort of more personal ones there, but I think it also needs to be our willingness to adapt and change.
Yes.
The willingness to continue with your professional development.
Correct.
Your willingness to, particularly over the last few years where we've had all this additional legislation and extra stuff we've needed to assist our clients with. Some practitioners have not wanted to offer those services, but yet clients have been in, depending on the state or territory they're in, some clients have been in desperate need for that.
Yes.
So I think if we're not able to meet client demands and haven't got another solution, you know what I mean? Like there's all of these other more practical aspects as well that come into that,
That's a very good point, Kylie. I'm so glad that you raised that, because reflecting back on my journey too, that was part of it as well. I had fallen out of love with the client work, when I decided that conscious sale. And I wasn't really willing to put in, what I needed to, and I wanted to leave on top, not, as I'm sliding down the other side, which, but that was hard to face up to for me as a professional and what that meant. And that's not easy.
It's not easy at all, because to some degree it's admitting like, I'm not going to do that, which to some people is giving up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't think it's giving up when you make that conscious decision.
I agree.
I really don't.
No, I don't think it is either. I think it's, a conscious decision. You don't ever want to be in a position where you've been pushed to do something, by clients or the financial impact of how you're feeling. I really think just facing up to some of these things and having some conversations, whether that's with colleagues, your family, advisors, coaches, those sorts of people, there's plenty out there to help you.
Yeah, and look, sometimes when we're talking about selling your practice, it might not even be you're selling the whole thing. It might be you're selling part of it to someone else coming up through the ranks as well.
Absolutely. So there's different types of sales as well, I suppose. You know, there's whether we're talking internal, external, and internal as a more of a succession type thing, it's still a sale. And it's still all of the same things that you've got to go through, you know. And I think, again, as accountants, we can go, oh, I'll just, you know, hand it on to the next one. And certainly in the work that I do now, I'm dealing with a lot of that. And the conversations are just not being had. And then it's making internal succession, or when you want to get out, very difficult.
Yes, it is. Yep. Yeah, and I think they're the sorts of things that we really need to go through today, you know, all
Absolutely.
of that decision-making timeline and those preliminary steps that you need to take before you
Absolutely.
actually list for sale.
Yes, perfectly. Well, we have some special guests joining us this morning, which I would like to bring into the conversation now and help Kyelie and I really get into the nitty-gritty of this. Is it time to sell? So please welcome Brenda and Maria from Bentley Business Brokers. Ladies, I'll get you to quickly introduce yourselves.
Oh, thanks, Lynda.
Hi, Kyelie.
Lynda. Hi, Kyelie. Lynda, thanks for having Maria and I here today. We appreciate it. I think most of our accounting clients know us as Bentley Recruitment. We've been specialists in practice accounting recruitment for over 16 years now. And, you know, we really, I suppose, had a tremendous amount of our clients merging, buying, selling,
Yes.
all sorts of things happening in our market. And we, you know, there's a very, very strong demand. And I think as a result of our relationships and our networks in the industry, we established a division of Bentley Business Brokers and got ourselves licensed. And we're now specialized only in the buy-sell of accounting firms because that is our area of expertise. So we don't broker any other types of business. You know, we really understand the market, the key indicators of success in the sales process. We understand businesses, but I think the most important thing when you're selling is to have the right access the right networks.
Yes.
So that, yeah, you know, so that you can identify you know, a suitable buyer for your practice. Yeah. So I think that's really where we've come in and are able to sort of handhold through that entire process.
Fabulous. And Maria, you've been right beside Brenda the whole way, right?
That's right. So I've been there for about 15 years as well in the recruitment side of things. And we decided that we're going to do the brokering because we saw that need and that demand from our clients. So, you know, we're always there with them, and we know that they're always asking us, you know, we would like to buy or we'd like to sell. And we thought, well, you know, why don't we service those clients as well in that part of their journey?
Makes complete sense. We're very lucky in the industry to have very experienced ladies like you that, you know, and I know I've known Brenda personally for many, many years now, and I certainly know her heart is in the right place, and I'm sure Maria, just meeting you recently, same thing. So we're very privileged to have you out and about and helping anybody that does think it's time to sell. So ladies, is from what I'm seeing in my end, demand remains quite high for, you know, the sale of accounting businesses or even parcels of fees. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely, Lynda. You know, we have countless amounts of buyers in all regions. People are looking, you know, that those firms are looking to buy parcels of fees. That's probably the most popular way to you know, as an add-on to their own businesses, as opposed to into a partnership or you know, they really just want to. It's so hard to grow organically these days.
Yes.
You know, there's a great parcel of fees that they can tag on to their own business, and they can have a great handover from the exiting practitioner. They are, the market is at an all-time high with demand. So
yeah, wow.
if we send any sort of information out, we would have our clients coming back to us saying, we want to buy.
Fabulous.
Very few people selling. So I think there's a great opportunity there, where there is such high demand, and it is really, as long as you've decided, the practitioner's decided that that's what they want to do, and prepared for it, as you said,
Yes.
it can be a really, really easy process at the moment.
So you raised a very good point there, and Kylie, I think this is something we can chat about a little bit as well, would be the fact that the difference between selling a whole business versus selling a parcel of fees, and what that looks like, and particularly when you're considering, is it time to sell, what does that look like for you? What position are you in, and how does that work? So Brenda, you were just saying that, a parcel of fees is easier. Why is it easier? I mean, I get a fair idea why it's easier, but let us know.
As I say, I think really, they can look at one aspect of the business, which is the quality of the clients and the match with their own business. They can integrate those clients into their own systems and processes and offices. And do that quite easily. When you're looking at, for instance, they look for a partner to come into the business, you're then talking about a recruitment exercise as well as a sale of fees, and then all of a sudden there's culture matches and other partners, so many other factors that have to be taken into consideration.
Yes.
I mean, when I say a parcel of fees, buying the entire business would also be obviously very, very popular, but it just depends on leases and, I suppose how you want to sell the business. If you do want to sell it with your premises, or you want to sell it with, with your lease, that can be just that little bit harder, but it is still easier to sell your entire practice than to sell a portion of it.
Yes.
But, I mean, having said that, we've had clients who want to just, they've got certain clients that don't align with their goals and visions, and sell off a parcel of their fees. That can be done quite easily as well, with the existing business still being there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. So I think then it's, that's certainly something to consider, right, Kylie? Like, what does this sale look like for you? Are we selling staff? Are we selling premises? Are we doing the whole box and dice? Or can we, not manipulate, it's not the right word, but get it in a position where, it makes the sale much easier? Because we're just hearing from the experts that, clearly,
Yeah, I think step one is get planning. What do we want this to look like? What does end game look like for us in the perfect world? And that will help us to determine what we actually want to happen.
Yeah.
And, and also within that becomes determining what time frame we want this to happen in as well. And that might help make the decision about what that would look like as well. And then I guess that leads on to getting yourself sorted. Okay, well, if I want to sell my whole business, then geez, I've got to get my debtors situation sorted out.
Yes.
I've got to get my staffing situation sorted out, or whatever. If we just want to sell a parcel of fees, and I'll just use an example of, just maybe your I returns.
Yes.
Then timing will come into it. Do I want to sell them just before, July? Or do I want to get all of that revenue out of them and maybe sell them in November? You really need to think about all of those sorts of things. So I think getting planning and then taking those action steps after it. One of the things that I think, Brenda, it was you said intrigued me, and I'd just like to ask you a couple more questions about it. And you said a great handover is so important and it makes it so much easier. Maybe if you could expand on that a little for us and tell us an example of a great handover and the difference between what a great handover versus maybe a not so great handover looks like.
Yeah, I think that, it makes a huge difference when our buyers are buying parcels of fees that they obviously want to bed down into their own business and have those clients coming on board. There's often not a cash upfront payment. There'll be, a residual based on retention. And, the better that handover, the more retention there's going to be of those clients in the new practice. So for an example of a really good handover, we recently sold a practice to, it was a retiring gentleman. He was moving up into regional Queensland. He got his timeline and his preparation right. He was motivated to sell and realistic about his expectations. Up front, he said, I'm going to be moving to regional Queensland he's actually just moved up now in January. And, I think he had about at that time, he listed with us, I think in around March of 2021. We were really lucky to find a cash buyer for him, and that process only took 12 weeks. And then he set financial year end because it was a cash purchase, that was it. But in terms of the handover, he was prepared to work at the premises of our buyer, and he did that successfully. He, in a young team, he came in and he spent a full 6 months there, handing over with the new owner, transitioning his clients, making sure that everything was 100% before he left. And he is actually still available to them on a consulting basis once he's up in regional Queensland. So he was really open. He was 70 years old, but really open to, supporting that handover completely for the new buyer. And that transition has gone extremely well. Whereas a walk-in, walk-out situation really doesn't work for accountants.
No. Yeah, because it really, whether we want to or like it or not, it really is about the relationships with our clients and, what they deem as to, and, I've certainly been through this. No one likes to be sold. Pardon me, or no one likes to be told where to go or what to do. So, then often what will happen is clients will have other relationships or other avenues for these types of services that they've never pursued because they're being quite loyal to you. But once you mention some sort of change, then they're like, oh, well, I'll try my neighbour's friend that does accounting too. Kylie, I see you bobbing your head there.
Yeah, I'll say something that's potentially unpopular.
We love it when you say unpopular things.
I feel strongly that, these days clients should be loyal to an accounting firm as a brand, not the accountant that they work with.
Yes.
And I know that's really weird to say because we're a relationship-based firm. That's what we actually say to our clients.
Yeah.
We want to form relationships with you. And obviously we don't say, form relationships with us as a brand.
Yes.
But that's what we do. We don't, pinpoint one person just to work with them. They work with everybody.
Yes.
And one of the reasons that we do that is so that if something happens down the track or something happens to the person that they're connected with or whatever, and all these things are inevitable, the client doesn't get that uncomfortable feeling
that something's changing. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, things change with us all the time. We live in change, right?
Yes.
So they're used to that.
Yes.
But I feel really strongly that brand development is actually helpful in selling a practice, unless obviously you're merging.
Yes.
Then that's pretty useful.
Then you've got to let go of one. That's correct.
Yeah.
Kylie, that's an excellent point because I think something, and again, I see it in my work all of the time now, is that let's call it very traditional businesses have never focused a lot on marketing or brand or, even investigating what that means. And what you've just said now is if we're, really would love a good sale here, it's about that clients understanding what that brand is. And particularly, I suppose, Maria, you'd see this too, is that you want the brand to match up with whoever's buying it. And what that looks like, that consistency. So that means consistency in services, consistency in process, consistency in conversation and how you speak to clients across the whole team. So those service levels and values need to be 100%, in alignment if you can.
That's right. Yeah, I was also going to add with what Brenda was saying. So, handover from the seller to the buyer is great in terms of being able to retain those clients. But what's also important in some sales is that when key staff members go with that sale of the business, and especially if they've had client relationships as well, that helps with that retention as well.
Yeah, okay.
Because they're used to, dealing with these key staff members.
Yes.
Already, yeah.
Yeah, so you've got some consistency
That's right,
with
in the
regard.
services.
Yeah. But yeah, Kylie, brand, I love that. That's, and what makes a brand then, like I said, I mentioned a few things there before, and I'm talking to somebody or working with somebody now, and they're considering an internal sale, but it's with, sometimes you'll see in particularly larger firms where they're quite siloed, and someone might come up through the ranks. Well, this is a cross silo one that they're looking at, that someone from another team is going to come in and purchase the fees of this particular director. And we've just been looking at in the new year, okay, regardless of who's coming in, what could she do to make this handover perfect? What can we do to make it seamless? Not perfect, we shouldn't go for perfect, but seamless, and we're looking at the organizational structure within the team, the roles, who does what, when, so that we can actually nail the internal workings of this team down to, just clockwork. So when this new director steps in, it will go on regardless, really. Clients won't know any different. And, apart from somebody new that might be introduced to them at a very high strategic level. So I don't know, have you got any thoughts on that, Kylie?
Yeah, I think that's like what you're doing with that client that you're working with is you're planning, right?
Yes,
exactly.
That's what
we're talking about. You're going through this planning process and you're getting things sorted. So you're working, and I imagine that one of the things that you'd be doing with the person that's exiting is that they wouldn't be having a whole heap of client contact right now. Like, one of those things is, okay, we've got to get this new person that's likely to do this, client facing, distance this person and put this person in, get the right staff members that are going to be continually, ongoing.
Absolutely.
In front of the clients. Like, that's all those planning things.
Yes. And to be honest, this has been going on for 3 years. So we're into our 4th year now. And through different scenarios around who might buy in and who might not. And, whether you're considering internal or external, it can take time. And I know that Brenda was just mentioning that really good sale that she had there before with that gentleman who was retiring. I bet he was thinking about it quite a number of years before and setting himself up and his, what he wanted to achieve from it well before.
Yeah. I think that's important too, because particularly if you're selling to retire, you want it to be a successful sale, because if it's a successful sale, it can be a successful retirement.
Yes.
You don't want to end it thinking, I could have done that better. If only I had hung in there and done one more year to improve that, then I would have had this much extra,
Yeah.
You want to get it right.
Yeah, absolutely. So Maria, what do you find the common reasons that accountants are wanting to sell?
So, we have the, retirement.
Yeah.
And, some of them don't have that succession planning in place.
Yes.
Already. So they need to go look somewhere else to find that buyer. You can have partners exiting, like a partner wanting to exit, and then the other partners don't want to buy their fees. So then they look for, again, that external one.
Mm-hmm.
They can't find someone internally to sort of go up in the ranks and purchase those fees. Again, as we were saying before, some would like to sell like a parcel of their fees that don't align with their branding or, or the rest of their other client fee bases. So they try to sell that off. They also like to, some partners, especially with the smaller ones as well, where they find that, the individual ones where they find that the work is getting to them and they like to sell their fees or merge with another firm that has the resources to sort of help them service those clients.
Or take services in a different direction, I'd imagine too. You can reach a point in your career where you feel like you need some help or some support. So it's
right, and that's
hard out there. Yeah, it's hard out there being a sole practitioner. Hey, Kyelie, Baxter. Yeah.
I've been there before and done that.
Yeah.
It's not the funnest thing in the world. You have to surround yourself with people that will help.
Yeah. So back to that comment that Brenda, whether it's, you're practicing or whether you're preparing for sale or thinking about it, it's tapping into the right networks and the people around you and getting good advice. And listening to what's out there, not burying your head in the sand. I think that, that's something we'll be all talking about. But I'll quickly just refresh the room for everybody. We are here on Clubhouse talking all about, is it time to sell your accounting business or parcels of fees or things like that. And Kyelie, Baxter and myself are joined by Brenda and Maria from Bentley Business Brokers. So if anybody in the audience has a question or wants to take the discussion in a different direction, we're very happy for you to do that. You just have to raise your hand and we can invite you up on stage. We'd love you to come up and give us your insights into perhaps your sale experiences or anything like that, or anything you'd like us to delve into a little bit more. All right. But I think, knowing what purchasers are looking for would really help us prepare, I would say. So Brenda, what are purchasers really keen to look for now when they're looking at either the sale of a business or the sale of or purchase of a parcel of fees?
Okay. So Lynda, I think buyers are really looking at alignment of the fee bases with their own, that integration has worked well.
Yeah,
so
okay.
Mainly business clients, for instance, and they don't want to buy a lot of individuals. That's certainly, I think across the board when people are, when practitioners are preparing them, having a look at their client base and seeing, and really trying to focus on the business client, because there's far more value in that in terms of what clients are looking for. They're looking for corporate business clients. They're looking for longevity of those. Are they being retained?
Okay.
I think they're looking at key staff members. Now, obviously, key staff members come with the business, but if they're purchasing the business and there's been that preparation of retaining key staff members, it really can be, it's very, very hard to resource these at the moment. There's really good people on board that know the clients well. I think, that's certainly an attraction for a potential buyer to take on the key staff members. They really look at demographics of the client base. Are they if there is an aging client base, are they generational clients where people are going to come and take over their small family businesses and retain them as clients. I think they also look at increase and decrease of either an increase or a decrease in fees over the last 3 financial years. So I think when people are preparing, as you say, they shouldn't be winding down. They should really be ramping up increase in their fees, and they should be bringing on new clients, and they should still be very active in the business, because if there is a decline, I think potential purchasers are concerned about that.
So that goes back to the point you made, Kyelie, about when is the right time? When are you ready to, have you had enough? And are you starting to go down rather than going up? Because now Brenda's just said that that's a key point in what purchasers are looking for. And funnily enough, sorry, Kyelie, what were you going to say there?
Well, I was going to say, we have to remember that we're accountants selling to another accountant.
Yes.
So it does come down to the numbers.
Yes.
And, it's that old joke that the plumber's tap's always leaking.
Yes.
You have to really look at the way that your figures are prepared and think, well, if I was buying this business or one of my clients are buying this business, what advice would I give them?
Yes, exactly.
You really want to make sure that you have the ability to break down all of your revenue by all of the services that you provide, so that people can see what percentage each of those services is generating.
Yes.
If the person or the firm that's potentially going to buy your business is heavily focused on compliance and not so much advisory, but you're 80% advisory, that's not going to be a good match. But you want to be able to dig deep into those figures to show them that. And I think what Brenda was saying about, how people look at the 3 years and the geographical and, generational, like that definitely happens. You need to be able to dig into your database and make sure your databases are up to date and that they exist.
Yes.
And, be able to provide client history and background. How long have these people been clients? When were they onboarded? What's your firm's selection criteria? What's your client's average age? What's your client's group type? Industry classification. I think Brenda said geographical. I've heard other ones. And then of course, what about your fee structure? How many are the fixed price agreements? How upfront percentage fees in advance? How many are love jobs that we discount? All of those sorts of things are really important that you can't just be expected to remember. You have to actually be able to show all of that stuff. Average fees per client, that sort of thing that we've spoken about before as well.
But Kylie, we don't need any of that information to do tax returns and accounting. What do you mean we've got to track all this extra stuff too?
I know.
Oh no, here we go being unpopular again in accounting.
I know.
Anyway.
But this stuff is so interesting to me.
Yeah.
I love this sort of stuff because it teaches you so much about your own client base.
Yes.
And that's why I look at other firms, and I'm thinking about this one in Brisbane. They just do medicals. What industry classification do they have? Oh, it's just medicos. How easy is that?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yes. So, some of our internal systems, in this preparation phase for sale, you might have to look at what data you have and do you have the ability to mine it in a certain way, like all of those things that Kylie mentioned. Brenda had a big long list there as well around the type of stuff. And we're information driven people. So what Kylie said too about we're an accountant selling to an accountant, that accountant's going to want information. So the more that you can know about your clients, their history, what that looks like is just going to serve you very well. So there's some effort maybe needs to be put into that 3 to 5 years before you think the time might be to sell.
That's
right. It is likely, yeah.
We are talking about the time it takes to sell. And from a broker point of view, all this information needs to be on hand and be collected and be able to be supplied to the potential buyers. So you can significantly reduce the time of sale if you are very well prepared. And as you said, you've segmented your client base. You know exactly where the revenue streams are coming from. All of those things make it that much easier to list a business with the right information. So it sometimes could take us months just to gather that information from
yes.
the client. And that increases the time to sell, which is, so being more prepared, as this gentleman was, he was very prepared. And even though he ran a lot of manual systems, he could give us the information almost instantaneously.
Wow. Yeah.
Could list the business within, I think we listed the business within 2 weeks because we could debrief and get all of that information immediately. So I think in terms of timing, the more prepared you are, the quicker the sale will go.
Perfect. And something that I picked up before in what you said, Brenda, and I'd be interested in your comments here too, Maria, is around the retention of, key staff members and seeing a sale. And I know this has happened to me, and this is that conscious sale that I talked about before. It was a recruitment activity as much as it was a sale. I think it was more of a recruitment activity than it was a sale, to be honest. They wanted me. and they wanted me to hang around. And it ended up, that I did for quite a long time in some different roles with this particular firm. But, are we seeing firms doing that? And then again, going back to the preparation of what we can be doing as business owners around our key staff, don't underestimate the value of them and what, impact they can have on a very fortuitous sale.
Absolutely. I think the number one it is their recruitment, having people to service their fees. So when there's a purchase in play, the buyer has to make 100% sure that they've got enough resources to service that feedback.
Yeah.
It's not only about having the money to buy it, it's how do they, how do they service that client base once it's on board? And you're absolutely right. One of the ways of actually recruiting is
acquisition.
Yeah, is of course that they haven't got the promise that key staff members will come with the business.
No.
There's a certain risk there, and that does happen where, there needs to be that interview process, an inclusive process with key staff members to get them on board and to get them to stay with the new, with the buyer in the new business.
Yeah.
But certainly the principles, as I say, the handover, how long they can be there. It might even be that they stay on for, if they're not retiring, happy to stay on for a couple of years. And that certainly helps tremendously. Skills and expertise are at an all-time demand in the market at the moment. There just isn't people out there. I think Kyelie would experience some of that.
I think there's a lot of people out there. It's just about quality people.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, I think you're right. It's because realistically, we're accounting firms. You don't see a lot of us running, at very high or over capacity. We're always almost on that red line or under capacity, certainly at the moment. And with where recruitment and talent has been for many, many years. And by the way, that is exactly the same all around the world. That is not different anywhere. I talk to my colleagues in the US and UK, same thing. It's happening everywhere. So interesting. A sale can be a recruitment strategy as well, or vice versa. But one point I would like to talk, and we were talking a lot about preparation and handover and making sure that can go as seamlessly as possible. Something that I have often seen in accounting firms is around maybe not exiting as gracefully as could really happen. Perhaps trying to hang on a little bit too long, or really not look seriously at how do you succeed clients onto whether that's another senior member or whether that's onto a purchaser, and what that really means for you and how long that's going to take and what you need to do. I don't know, Kyelie, have you experienced that over the years?
I've observed it.
Yeah.
It's definitely a thing. And I think I personally think it comes down to the emotional attachment that you have with your clients,
Yes.
And that probably taps into that discussion that we had before about it being a brand. Your firm has to be a brand. It can't just be about that one person. But even within that, when it's time to go, you can't have your cake and eat it
too.
If you decide you want to go, you really have to start that distance, start that handover. And if it was me and I decided to sell, I would be starting that before I even listed. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I'd be starting that when I was starting to collate everything, or if I was even thinking about it, because that's retaining clients is one of the biggest things, because there's going to be a retention payment. So you really want to make sure that those clients stay. So the quicker clients get used to dealing with different people, the better.
Yes, exactly. So you're saying then in that team environment that you have, certainly any type of handover would, they're just used to dealing with different people. It's not all siloed through one person and making it therefore very difficult to succeed that client over. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
But I think, and I don't want to make a generalized statement, but I do think often it comes down to ego. People do really just want to hold on to their clients because they've been their clients for so long and they feel like they're family.
Yes.
But when you've made the decision to go, you have to go.
Yeah, and then you've got to be realistic about what that really means, don't you? And it doesn't then, I think, in any, whether you want to call it leadership or even just overall benefit for you, if you really looked at or nailed down the outcomes that you want to have, you will get a better outcome by helping those clients go on to the next person or the next firm, and just get a better outcome if you participate in that openly and freely, I think, but yes, I have seen that one time and time again, and that can be a little tricky, and I think that's again having to face up to some of those hard conversations, particularly where you might be in a multi-partner firm, and we see that happen quite a lot. So there's some navigating to do there, and again, in multi-partner firms, we see different partners have different needs and different wants at different times. So strategy will look very different through each of their eyes, but you need to be having those conversations up front. All right. Does anyone have any questions for us? We would love you to pose a question to any of our guests if you would like. Please just raise your hand, and we'll invite you up on stage if you want to have a chat. But I suppose if we get down to a bit, it does come down to price. It does come down to money. Ladies, what are we seeing? The valuation methods currently being used around accounting businesses and fees? What's happening in that space?
Well, they're still mostly based on the amount of the fee base, so that's the valuation method that they're going with. So it would depend as well on the type of clients that you have. So with more individuals, you're looking at about 80 cents to the dollar of their fee base. Or, with more business clients, it'll be $1 to dollar.
Okay.
We do have second-tier firms who are willing to offer up to $1.20 for the fee basis. So, so the valuation method is still definitely going by
fees,
the amount of fee base that you have.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And on average, like you mentioned that before, that you got that really good sale that was sort of like 12 weeks turnaround. On average, though, how long are you finding that it takes a sale to go perhaps from start to finish, from when they're obviously contacting you to when perhaps, you might get a good result for somebody?
I think, Lynda, that it very much is on, as Kyelie said, if they've taken 3 years to prepare for that point, often it's, actually get them, if they want to list, to really be able to have the information at hand and put an information memorandum together can take months if the client's not prepared.
Yeah.
And then I think it also depends on the type of sale. If it's a fee parcel, it can be quite quick. Especially a smaller fee parcel, but if it's a larger fee parcel or there's an incoming partner, it could take years, to be honest. An example of a client of mine who, really had his practice on the market for probably the good part of 3 years before he managed to get that right. And it's because, as you pointed out, Lynda, they have to be 100% ready to exit. They have to have realistic expectations. They have to have prepared that practice for a smooth transition to the new owner. So it's often not in the actual sales process. It's more in the preparation, and their willingness to interview with buyers and to be realistic in their expectations. and the fee base can make a difference as well. You know, if it's a larger fee base, it will potentially take longer to find a buyer that's suitable for that. And if it's an income partner, it could be years before they really relocate to that area, bring their family. There's so many other aspects that go with that, you know, in terms of that time of sale. So, you know, it's very hard to say. I think the absolute minimum is 12 weeks if a client is super prepared and realistic and ready to exit.
That's like a rocket, that is, Brenda. That's super fast.
You know, and again, you know, the buyer didn't need finance, so there wasn't that sort of, you know, with the banks and finance and loans. But realistically, it can take up to 5 years.
Yes, yeah. Well, look, any accounting, you know, partners or business owners that, you know, I run across, and that's the first thing I ask them, you know, and it'll be you realise that succession or sales takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years. So you better start now.
Years old, like our client, you know, there isn't a lot of time left he really wanted to be out by financial year, and I think that is achievable as long as they're completely and utterly ready to push that go button. You know, we can, because of the demand and the amount of buyers out there, it is actually, you know, we can present numerous buyers to that client straight away, as long as we can give them the information they need.
Yeah. And I think too, it's really about, you know, opening your eyes, having the conversations with team members too. I know just one firm that I've been working with recently, they both had 2 partners getting on in years, and were thinking about retiring. They loved working, but we've gone through this whole thing of, when is the time ready for them to say, and they didn't want to let go. They really loved work and love everything they're doing. But after discussions with me, they realized that, you know, you can't just turn around and do this tomorrow, because what if something happened with health or something like that, and you're forced to make a very quick decision that may not be in the best interests of everybody, including your clients. And so they also felt like they didn't have team members to internally succeed them. Now, it didn't take much to have the right conversations, and we actually found there were team members that were there. It was just an interesting scenario, or the perfect storm that these partners had almost created for themselves. So don't underestimate just opening up and having these conversations internally too, because, you know, we're not here forever. We don't want to work forever, I'm sure. You know, we don't want to keep working until we, you know, topple over at the door one day. You know, that's not really what we want to achieve. So I think it's being realistic for yourself, having some conversations if you've got partners, team members, or with colleagues, right, Kyelie? Getting into those networks, getting some thoughts out.
Yeah, definitely. You really want to have a sounding board when you're having, you know, big decision-making times like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Kyelie, is there anything else that you think we need to chat about with regard to, is it time to sell?
I think because it's such a big decision, and it's something that you can toy with back and forwards, and, you know, for myself, I know when things like this happen, it's very easy for me to go, I don't even know where to start with that. So I'm just going to shelve it. Shelve it. So practically, I know that there is a CPA selling and accounting practice checklist.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's really good. It is available to everyone. So you don't have to log in or be a member or anything like that. And it actually goes through like some preliminary steps before listing for sale, which goes through what we have talked about this morning with Brenda and Maria, and a lot more things. Even
more detailed.
Like preparing an executive summary and background information, you know, like a practice profile sort of thing.
Yes.
And then actually takes you through like advertising and negotiate the sale and doing contracts, settlement handover, like the whole kit and caboodle.
Nice.
So I think if you were ever thinking, oh, too hard basket, it would be worthwhile getting your hands on that document, having a read of it. It's only like, Oh no, it's 14 pages.
Yeah.
Showing
But that's nothing for us, right? 14 pages. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's one thing that CPA is very good at, is that detailed information around topics. So yes, highly recommend those resources. Yeah, Brenda, was that you popping up to say something there?
No, sorry, Linda.
Maria.
I was actually going to say that it's actually quite interesting that Kyelie said that, because even on our information memorandum, we do follow that checklist.
Oh, very good.
So our information memorandum are quite extensive already. And when we do send out a questionnaire to our sellers about the information that they need to give us in order for us to generate these IMs, those are the same sort of points that we have in those questionnaires, because we want the buyers to have all the information that they need.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And I think just, on the network side of things, if you are thinking about, making a decision like this, or are thinking about selling, tapping into resources like Bentley Business Brokers is a really good idea. I mean, ladies, you would having been in recruitment for so long as well, have long established relationships with many, many firms, right?
Yeah. Lynda, they, we have so many people just calling and chatting to us. They're not, they have a set of circumstances that they just want some advice on. How does this work in the market? How do I contemplate that? We can give them, we want them to be as prepared as they possibly can. So we're happy to chat to people. We do it all the time, just to give them completely free advice on our experiences, what the market is at the moment, what they need to do to prepare, and we, that's part of what we do constantly, with a very wide audience of both buyers and sellers.
Fabulous.
And I think, Brent, it's also giving them different options on how they can sell.
Yeah.
And not just, an outright purchase or anything like that. So there's, options that sort of, there's a recruitment exercise sort of, inserted into it. Yeah.
Perfect. So I think, in wrapping up, we're getting close to the top of the hour. Gosh, time flies when you've got plenty to say and chat about. And so, I think certainly the keys around, is it time to sell? First thing is thinking about that. I don't think it's too early to think about when that might be. That old Chinese proverb of, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. So think about these things, open up the dialogues, allow yourself to go down that path, because at some point it is very likely to be in your future. So, and then of course you will, seamlessly move into that preparation phase. And you might be preparing for sale for 10 years, knowing full well that it won't happen until a certain time. But being prepared then is not going to force you into a situation where you can't consciously control everything. So I think being well prepared, looking at your data, that was a great point, Kyelie, making sure that data is there around your clients, and thinking about your accounting business as a brand and what does that mean. I think they were excellent points. Kyelie, is there anything else from you?
No, I'm good today.
You're all good today? All right. So next week we'll be back again. We're back into the swing of things now. No more public holidays and breaks. We'll be back here every week. So next Wednesday, 9th of February at 7 a.m, Kyelie and I will be back, and we're talking about the art of delegation. So this was a topic that was raised by one of our listeners. So they're keen to hear all about the art of delegation. And of course, we're all very keen to hear from you as well, if there's any topics that you'd like us to chat about or pick apart or do what we do best. But thank you, Brenda and Maria. We really appreciate your time this morning. That was excellent to have some insight, expert advice around, is it time to sell? So thank you very much, ladies.
Thanks for having us, Lynda.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. And hopefully we will see everybody online next week. Thank you, Kyelie Baxter, once again. Amazing as always.
Thanks, Lynda. Talk to you next week.
Talk to you then. Bye, everybody.
Bye.